Hi, this is Shoshana Brigette from ColorKarma.com. I am here with Ryan Stanley, the Senior Director of Color, all things color at PBH. Welcome
Hello, hello.
again.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. So, we're going to continue on our last conversation about illuminance and the heated topic around LEDs,
Yeah,
right? Um, you said, incandescence is still one of the most used, as is
home lights.
fluorescence,
Yeah.
right? But we see more and more LEDs, and especially in retail spaces, are
Right.
moving to LEDs. So, where does LEDs sit in this visualization and understanding when you have the three other colors? Not colors, illuminants to
Illuminance.
check under? I mean, you said incandescence, you said cool white, and
Daylight.
D65, which
Yeah.
is daylight, right? So where does LED sit in that range?
I'm a bit of an odd duck in that regard.
As
When you,
always.
yeah, when you talk to most people in the industry, ideally people want to know, um, they want digital tolerances against exactly how under the illuminant that the color is going to be evaluated under. The wacky thing with LEDs is there's so many different types, there's so many different versions of it. They're changing so often that, you know, it's kind of hard for a standard body AATCC to like D65, cool white, incandescent, that was stable for however many decades.
Hmm.
LEDs are changing, almost by the week, the month, the year,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
Um, so I sort of took a step back from this and thought to myself, what is the purpose of execution for design? It's making sure, in my mind, it's being stewards of their selected color, right? So
Right.
in whatever environment that they evaluated it, in whatever environment that they selected that color, now ideally I have a spectral curve. I have a standard curve to match, a color
Okay.
standard and associated digital data to match. If so what's that quote? A rose by any other name would still smell as sweet, right? If it walks like
Right.
a duck, talks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
It's a duck.
It's a duck, right? So if I have a standard reflectance curve, and let's forget about LEDs for a second. If I'm looking at sets of illuminants that are taking snapshots of that color
Hmm.
under different parts of its spectral curve, right?
Right.
A red casted light, incandescent, a blue casted light, daylight, and
Right.
maybe a yellow or a warm casted light, a cool white or ultralume or whatever else like that. I'm getting a good, I'm getting a good overall assessment of the level of potential inconstancy of that color. And or if I'm comparing a standard to a batch, any metamerism that might exist underneath
Hmm.
those different illuminants. So at that point, are LED definitions in regards to execution really required? Potentially not. The industry has been getting away with not having one for however many years now,
For
and they're
many
in
years.
yeah, and they're in the stores, and people are buying clothes and have buying clothes under LEDs and looking at their clothes and their objects under their home LEDs, and we're still matching color consistently. I gotta think maybe then the secret sauce is not having, if I had it, it would be great. I'm not saying that, but
Right.
the secret sauce may be defining color under a set of illuminants that looks at the curve in its entirety to define metamerism and inconstancy, and not necessarily relying on having the actual illuminant table for that LED.
So to make the pun is you're measuring under those three different lighting sources to create a spectrum
Mhm. Yeah,
that is under an LED. You're going to still have that spectrum.
yeah.
Because especially because now users have control over the LEDs. So if it's
Hmm.
morning, the LEDs are switching more to the blue, but during
Hmm.
the day it'll go over to the yellow and red. And so, you know, in your theory, which I like, is as long as you have those three points in time of variations, then it doesn't matter because the LEDs are going to be within those three ranges.
Yeah, the call out, what you're looking for if you're trying to, coordinate a mixed media style that has all different materials on it, that's dyed with different sets of dye stuffs, and you're trying to get it to be as constant and minimize metamerism as possible.
Right.
Um, if you're doing that, looking at traditional illuminants like ultralume or cool white, daylight, incandescent, you're exactly right. You're identifying if a level of inconstancy would exist. And if you still so choose to pick a standard that is inconstant, now
Hmm.
you're matching that inconstancy for your batch, because now you're looking at it under those illuminants and you have defined tolerances against it. Um, and then the color will look however the color will look under whatever light it is, because that's how it works. So as long as you're mitigating inconstancy
Right.
and have digital tolerances under at least three sets of illuminants that cover that gamut, or that cover that reflectance curve, you're mitigating metamerism against your standard, then I think you might be okay. And that's how we've been getting away with not having defined LED tables in our
And
color evaluation software.
and to your point, you have those three different standards. So again, no one has the high under and end user. You can only wear that shirt under that light, and you can only do this under that light. By having that multiple standards, you cover that range.
Yeah.
And in printing, it's usually just D50, but this actually applies to print and packaging, because as you go to the stores, as we said, even the basic cosmetic and beauty counters, whether or not that's a CVS or a Target, they're now all doing LEDs under each shelf.
Yep.
And your whole lighting and experience is now very different than what the approval was, which was originally D50. So again, you should be looking at it under a range
Mm-hmm.
so that you understand the various experiences that the end consumer is going to have,
Yeah.
whether or not that's a shirt, a package, a box, or your shoes.
Yeah, your stickers that you held up in our last conversation, I mean, that's a great example.
E-suckers.
Yeah,
I love these.
if you're only looking at color under a single illuminant, then you could coordinate your printed package and think that it's fantastic. And then you're exactly right. Then they stick it in the store underneath an LED string, and your green turns brown, or your khaki turns red, or your gray turns purple, and now you're telling an entirely different story from what you wanted in the first place.
Exactly. And that's really, a nice way to do that and approach LEDs. That's really nice. And it is different, because I know from my days, and you said yourself at AATCC, we keep discussing how to standardize LEDs. And I do like your approach and theory to it, because again, it's all theory until proven otherwise. But to support your theory, we've had LEDs for years already, and so it's already working in that approach.
Am I a dork? Yes. Do I want defined tolerances for exactly how the color is going to be evaluated under, i.e., definitions of all LEDs? Yes. Am I going to get that? Haven't gotten it yet. So it's a matter of how do we manage it? How do we mitigate issues that might crop up with color, i.e., metamerism and inconstancy? Um, the only place I could see really, so that's for execution. The only place I could see really where standardized LED definitions would make sense is if design would want to have them in whatever evaluation software that they're using upstream,
Hmm.
to build their story from the very beginning. I mentioned in our last conversation, having their color palettes, Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever else, under
Right.
the different illuminants to decide if they're comfortable with the level of inconstancy that exists for some of the colors for traditional color standards.
Hmm.
So in that instance, if they want to build their palette out under a particular illuminant, um, th- that would be beneficial then, for design, right?
Right.
But then which one do they pick? How is it standardized? Ideally, we would push these standard committees. Ideally, we need to have those conversations with AATCC, the RA36 committee, and include design. So the rules that we come up with for management of this is not so execution focused. I mean, it's good that we have that, of course.
Right.
Um, but I think that the one piece that we're missing is paying attention to how the
The,
color is selected in the first place,
right.
in the environment that the color is selected in the first place.
Right. And we focus so much on the QC and the process. And so there's so many things by not engaging the earlier, the defining of the colors and, you know, what that looks like under the different illuminants, the different materials. We do need to include the creative community in those processes and in those committees. Very true. And
Yeah. So
I
there's
think,
where I can see standard definitions for LED illuminants would potentially make sense if
yeah,
design wants to make sure. But otherwise, again, they still have our standard set of illuminants, you know, Ultralume D65, cool white, incandescent, whatever else like that. So depending upon the brand, depending upon the, you know, the message of the brand, or, you know, where the colors are going, the environment that the colors are going to be evaluated in, they still have the opportunity to look at the existing illuminants and build it that way. So it doesn't stop
right.
them from being able to create, but, you know, the more information you have, the better.
The more information you have up front, the better decisions, the smarter decisions,
Mhm.
and you're not pushing the problem forward, right? You're solving it upstream. We have to include more creatives in this discussion, which is again part of why we do this and why we're having these conversations.
Yeah, it would
Maybe
also help for, you know, we keep saying, I think a word that pops up again and again and again across all of our conversations is, you know, trust and partnership.
trust, um, trust, communication, right? Um, and building that over time, and then you speed up.
Yeah.
But
So you start having design included in these illuminant definition conversations. You start exposing them to inconstancy and metamerism, words that they typically might not have heard unless they're, you know, being talked to from their color execution team for things to pay attention to. You know, not forced to use a light box, but to pay attention to color under different light boxes. So imagine how much easier those conversations would potentially be in the industry if there was, you know, a design group included in these AATCC conversations.
and your key word was they are talked to,
Yeah,
right?
talked at. Yeah.
I talked at, and so they're not part of the conversation. So that's kind of what we're trying to resolve is they need to be part of that conversation and have that baseline understanding. And yes, it makes them more marketable. It enhances their skills. It also makes them more freedom to design and
Mhm.
create and be faster and efficient. Man, who doesn't want to have that on their CVs or, you know, promotions or everything else? You're not talked at to. No one wants to be talked at to as if they're a child and a parent. They want to
Oh
be
yeah.
part of the conversation. And by understanding the different illuminants, the different types of processes, they're part of that conversation. They're part of that engaging discussion of how to solve it, how to do it, how to move things forward. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really important.
Yeah, right now, I mean, the conversation is they both say to each other, design says, you don't understand my design aesthetic and what I want. And execution says, you don't understand the digital tolerances or the tolerances that I'm trying to define against, or the different materials and the different substrates and whatever else. And it's this constant,
Back and forth. And at
yeah,
the end of the day, time, money, and basic physics. The color will look what it looks like on that material with that technology. So instead of doing this, they have to work together so they understand it because they can't change the physics of what's going to
yeah.
happen.
Again, that's why I like the quote, you know, a rose by any other name. Once the color's picked, it, you know, it is what it is.
It
Then
is
it's
what
just
it
a
is.
matter of, you know, defining it and executing it to that standard.
Yep. Ryan, thank you so very much for our
Thank you very much.
fireside chats.
Yeah, I love it.
This is Shoshana Brigette from colorkarma.com. Have a wonderful and colorful day.
Bye, guys.